So we've all heard the statistic that everybody likes to repeat all over the internet of the 90% of traders that fail at attempting to trade, and I addressed that briefly in the myth section of this course. But I just want to dive a little deeper into it, just a little bit deeper. I'm not gonna, go too deep on this and spend a whole lot of time talking about this. But accepting risk is something that we definitely want to be aware of and that we need to give attention to, but we don't want to give too much attention to. All right, so let's dive a little bit deeper into this. Now, we know that with trading, losing is just part of the game. All right, it's just part of this business. You're going to take losses. That's something that you have to accept. Okay, you have to get in your mind that you are going to take losses, but it's how you take those losses. It's not taking losses, it's how you take the losses that's important. Okay, so the normal way that everybody talks about this is making sure that your losses are bigger than your wins. I can really go into a lot of detail about this and talk about this for hours. That may or may not be 100% true. It all depends on your win rate and all of that stuff, but just on a very basic level, yes, you do really want to attempt to make your wins bigger than your losses. You want to have rules in your strategy or setups in your strategy to where you know that, all right, the trade is not going the way that I need it to go, so let me go ahead and cut this risk. You want to be able to cut those risks quickly, especially when you're starting out. All right, and so in the strategy that we're talking about in this course, you don't necessarily have to worry about that because it's already built in, and we're going to get into all of those details in that section of this course. Now, so what I want to address here is how you approach mentally taking losses and the risk. Okay, so the thing that worked for me is I kind of applied the 80-20 rule to losses, or to how I review my trades. And what I mean is I give more attention to what I'm doing right and what I can do better than I do to any mistakes that I made or any losses that I take. So I'm going to back up a little bit and go back into what you're giving your focus to. Basically, wherever you give your focus to the most, that's what you will get more of. So this is what I had to learn the hard way when I was struggling and trying to figure things out. I would spend a lot of time looking at my losses and trying to figure out, what did I do wrong, and giving all kind of attention to what I did wrong and not trying to repeat those things. But eventually I got to the point where I just stopped caring about what I did wrong and just focused on what I was doing right and what I could do better. And that's where I started to see the changes in my trading, how I executed, and of course, all that bled into my P&L, right? The approach that I use when I take a loss is I just look at it from the big picture and I say, okay, did I follow my plan? Did I follow my strategy? And if all of that stuff lines up, then okay, we're good. It just happened. I took a loss, we move on. We move on to the next trade. Then in that loss, I look at what did I do right? And I give a lot of attention to that. We also got to make sure that we celebrate our wins and we're just focusing on what we did right. And if there's anything that we can do better, I put that in a journal and then I, write that down. I take notes, I take screenshot of what I could have did better. And then I may even go and I practice that. But I'm giving most of my attention and most of my focus into what's going to make me successful as a trader, not necessarily what took away from the money that I may have given back in a particular trade, right? When we're approaching our trading, we want to make sure that yes, we do acknowledge our losses and we do, keep track of that stuff. But at the same time, we want to give most of our attention, most of our focus to our wins. Definitely celebrate your wins. There are a lot of people all over YouTube and other places on the internet that tell you don't get any emotions and to be a robot when you have a successful trade. But no, and it's not necessarily wins. What I mean is I don't necessarily mean how much money you made. I mean, did you follow your plan? Did you execute correctly? Did you do the right things that you were supposed to do based off of your strategy and off the rules within your plan? Celebrate that stuff, not necessarily how much money you made. So if you took a trade and you followed everything and it came out $20, celebrate that the same way as if you took a trade and then everything worked out and you made $2,000. It doesn't matter the dollar amount. That's going to take care of itself. Just make sure that you're focusing on your execution and what you did right and what you as a person can control, right? And your self-awareness and all of that stuff. As long as that stuff is in line, celebrate that stuff, right? And so that's all that I'm going to really address in this part of the course. So in the next section, we're going to talk about knowing what kind of trader you are, and I'll see you there.